The alien girl was bare when I entered. Her surprise was evident. Ethan Hale stepped carefully onto the gray, rocky surface of the dead moon. Its sky was a dull violet, streaked with clouds of metallic dust. The silence was deep, broken only by the faint hum of his suit's life support system. This was a moon no human had visited for decades, a place abandoned after an alien research station shut down mysteriously. Ethan had been sent to investigate. The station loomed ahead like a broken giant. Its walls were scratched and scarred, the metal dull under layers of space dust. Doors hung crooked on their hinges. Somehow, it had survived the years of neglect, though clearly not untouched by the chaos that had once erupted here. Ethan's heart raced with curiosity and caution. Space had taught him one lesson above all: curiosity could get you killed, but fear could get you killed faster. He activated his suit's sensors, scanning for life or unusual energy signatures. Nothing showed up at first, only the station's decaying power core sputtering weakly. "Looks abandoned," he muttered to himself. Yet something in the readings caught his eye, a faint but stable energy source deep within the station, beyond the main corridors. Ethan frowned. Most abandoned stations didn't hold power like this. Something, or someone, was inside. He pushed open the heavy entrance door. The interior smelled faintly of ozone and rust. His boots echoed loudly across the metal floors, a sound he felt might carry far in the emptiness. Broken equipment littered the hallways. Monitors flickered occasionally, showing lines of corrupted data. It was like walking into a museum of chaos, a place where time had stopped. As he moved deeper, Ethan found the chamber door that corresponded to the energy signature. It was sealed tight, a warning sign glowing faintly beside it in alien symbols. He activated his translation scanner. The words were rough, incomplete, but one meaning was clear: restricted. Ethan paused. "Restricted for a reason," he whispered, but curiosity pushed him onward. Carefully, he opened the door. A hiss of air escaped the chamber, a faint sigh of release after years of being trapped. And there, in the dim light, stood a girl. She was unlike any life form Ethan had ever encountered. Her skin shimmered slightly, reflecting the weak light in subtle colors, almost like liquid metal. Her eyes were large, dark, and intelligent, filled with a mixture of fear and astonishment. She was bare, not because of carelessness, but because her species didn't wear clothing the way humans did. Her biology had adapted to her environment differently, and the station's emergency systems had left her in this vulnerable state. For a moment, neither moved. Ethan froze, realizing the weight of the situation. He could see her surprise clearly, her body language tense and cautious. This was a life form that had never met a human before, or at least had never expected one to appear here. He immediately took a step back, lifting his hands in a peaceful gesture. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said slowly, his voice calm through the suit's speakers. "My name is Ethan. I'm a visitor." The alien girl's eyes widened even more, and she made a sound that might have been a word or a warning. Ethan couldn't understand it, but he sensed its meaning: fear and perhaps confusion. He lowered his gaze slightly, showing he was not a threat. The girl shifted slightly, pressing herself closer to the wall. Her energy signature still pulsed faintly, as if she were wounded or exhausted. Ethan realized the truth. She had been alone for a long time, surviving in the station with minimal resources. She wasn't dangerous. She was scared and tired. Ethan activated a small light near his suit, careful not to blind her. Shadows danced across the chamber walls, revealing the details of her surroundings. Broken consoles, scattered tools, and dried pools of alien liquid were all that remained in the room. The girl seemed to notice the light but didn't move closer or further away. She was studying him as much as he was studying her. "Are you trapped?" Ethan asked softly. The translation system rendered his words into the alien language poorly, but she understood enough to respond with a small nod. Her body trembled slightly, not with fear of him but perhaps exhaustion. Ethan crouched down, careful to remain at a distance. "I can help," he said. "I have supplies. I can repair the systems here. We can find a way to get you out safely." The girl tilted her head, unsure. She had probably never seen anyone offer help without immediate demand or threat. In her species' history, survival often meant hiding or fighting. Trust was rare, yet something about Ethan's calm, deliberate movements told her he was different. For a long moment, silence stretched between them. Ethan could feel the weight of it. He knew that a wrong step could make her panic. Slowly she extended one hand, but only halfway, as if testing whether she could risk the contact. Ethan mirrored the gesture, stopping just short of her reach. "I won't touch you unless you want me to," he said. The words were simple, but the meaning was clear. Respect, not fear. Help, not harm. Finally, the girl nodded fully. She didn't speak yet, but she allowed Ethan to approach the console behind her. Using his tools, he began repairing the failing energy systems. Lights flickered and hummed to life. A small panel opened, revealing containers of alien food and water. Ethan offered one to her. She hesitated, then accepted it, examining it with cautious curiosity before eating. As she ate, Ethan's sensors detected a faint signal outside the station. It was subtle, barely noticeable, a scan from an approaching ship. He frowned. Whoever or whatever was out there might have been looking for her. He realized that their encounter might not remain private for long. "Are you being hunted?" he asked. The girl looked at him, her eyes widening with something like fear and hope combined. She nodded again, more firmly this time. The implication was clear. She had survived alone in these ruins, but she was not safe. Ethan knew a choice lay ahead. He could leave, report her existence, and let the galactic authorities decide her fate, or he could help her, risking his own safety. Humanity had always been admired and sometimes feared for their courage and compassion. This was a moment that tested both. He made his decision. "We're going to get you out of here," he said, "but we have to be careful. Someone is coming." The girl glanced toward the doorway, then back at him. It was the first time she seemed to understand that she wasn't alone, not just physically, but in trust. For a species that had known only betrayal, this was new. Ethan continued working on the station, repairing systems and activating emergency protocols. He shared basic information about the outside world, showing her maps and star charts, pointing out places of safety. She listened, sometimes nodding, sometimes staring in awe. Humans and aliens had rarely interacted this directly, and he felt the weight of that history pressing on him. As the distant hum of approaching ships grew slightly louder, the girl finally spoke a few words through the translation system. "Why help?" she asked. Ethan smiled faintly under his helmet. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said. "Because I don't leave someone behind when I can help. Because some things matter more than fear." For the first time, the girl seemed to relax. She wasn't just surprised anymore. She was beginning to hope. Outside, the dead moon remained quiet, but the future had shifted. Something small, fragile, and unexpected had been born in the ruins. Trust between two very different species. And though danger was coming, Ethan knew one thing clearly. Humanity would not step aside when someone needed help. That night, the alien girl watched Ethan as he continued working. Her surprise from earlier had faded, replaced by curiosity and cautious admiration. He was unlike anyone she had ever known. And for the first time in her life, she realized she might survive, not just physically, but with someone willing to fight for her. The first contact had been made. And in that silent, broken station, the seeds of something greater were beginning to grow. The morning light of the dead moon filtered weakly through the broken panels of the alien station. Ethan Hale had barely slept. His mind was busy planning the next steps, repairing the systems, and most importantly, keeping the alien girl safe. She had stayed awake most of the night, her large eyes reflecting the dim lights, studying him with curiosity and caution. Ethan understood. Her species had likely never seen a human so close before. "Good morning," Ethan said softly, not wanting to startle her. He crouched by the small console that had been partially repaired the night before. "I'm going to try restoring the main communication array today. If it works, we can contact your people or someone who can help." The alien girl shifted slightly, her eyes following his movements. She had not yet spoken her name, or perhaps she did not have a word for it in a form Ethan could understand. He decided to give her a name for ease, Lina, a sound he had pulled from fragments of her language. She seemed to respond when he used it, tilting her head slightly. Lina finally spoke a few broken words through the translation system. "One left behind," she whispered. Her voice was soft, almost musical. Ethan nodded, trying to interpret her meaning. "You mean you were alone?" he asked gently. She nodded, and for the first time, Ethan saw a flicker of emotion pass through her face, pain, fear, and something else, a fragile hope. She motioned for him to come closer. Carefully, Ethan approached, keeping his movements slow and non-threatening. She pointed to the walls of the chamber, where faded murals and carvings depicted figures in strange shapes, engaged in research, experiments, and what appeared to be rituals. Ethan studied them carefully, realizing these were records of her people's past. "They experiment," Lina said finally. Her eyes were dark and intense. "Not kind, others hunt." Ethan frowned. He had expected danger, but the depth of it was starting to become clear. Lina's species had been used as research subjects, their lives endangered for reasons that had nothing to do with survival, and now she was the last one alive. "I won't let that happen to you," he said firmly. "You're not alone anymore." Her eyes widened slightly at the statement. Humans were often recorded as aggressive or self-interested in galactic reports, yet here was one, risking his own life to protect her. For a moment, she seemed unsure whether to trust him. Then slowly she moved closer, letting him see her scars, small, faint marks along her arms and shoulders, evidence of her past struggles. Ethan worked silently, repairing more of the station's broken machinery. Every now and then he would glance at her, explaining what he was doing in simple words. "These panels control the power flow. Once they're fixed, the lights and doors will work fully." She watched attentively, fascinated by the concept of repairing systems. It was something her species had rarely done. She had survived mostly by hiding and avoiding danger. Hours passed, and Lina began to show signs of trust. She walked beside him as he moved to different consoles, her movements cautious but deliberate. She had learned quickly, picking up basic tasks, following instructions without needing much explanation. Ethan smiled beneath his helmet. Humans were adaptable, yes, but so were other species. Yet the human trait that impressed most alien civilizations was compassion. And that was what she was beginning to see. Suddenly, a soft alarm echoed through the station. Ethan froze, listening carefully. The sensors indicated approaching ships, small, sleek, fast-moving vessels. Not human. Someone or something was coming for Lina. "They come," she whispered, panic in her voice. Ethan could see the tension in her posture. She had survived alone for so long, yet the fear had never left her. Ethan's mind raced. The ships were not close yet, but they would arrive soon. He had to make a choice, hide and risk capture or confront the situation with the tools he had. Humanity had always been known for courage in impossible situations. He wasn't going to step aside now. "Stay here," he said gently. "I need to finish this first. Then we leave." Together, Lina nodded, though she remained tense. Ethan focused on the central console, pushing circuits into alignment, recalibrating energy flows. Slowly, the lights across the station flickered back to life. Holographic panels displayed maps, power grids, and communication logs. One terminal showed a record of Lina's species, confirming that she truly was the last survivor. Ethan placed a hand on the console, looking at the holographic image of her home planet. "You won't be forgotten," he said quietly. Outside, the sound of the approaching ships grew louder. Ethan accessed the station's external cameras. 3 ships were descending, scanning the area with sharp, precise beams of light. Whoever they were determined. And they clearly knew she was here. "We need a plan," Ethan muttered. Lina stepped beside him. She had watched him work silently, and now she spoke, her voice firmer. "Hide not enough. Run must leave." Ethan nodded. He had expected as much. The station was too small to withstand an attack. "We'll leave, but carefully. Follow my instructions and you'll be safe." He activated a small shuttle docked in the station's hangar. It had been damaged but repairable. He began emergency repairs while explaining each step to Lina, who assisted as best she could. Her species had never operated human equipment, yet she learned quickly, understanding the principles and mimicking his actions. Ethan felt a swell of pride. This was the moment humans shined, teaching and protecting while under pressure. Hours passed in tense silence. The ships moved closer, scanning methodically, but Ethan's repairs were nearly complete. Finally, the shuttle powered up, lights blinking and engines humming. "Ready?" he asked. Lina nodded, clutching a small device she had found in the station. Ethan recognized it as a universal translator, likely her last link to her species. He placed a reassuring hand on the console. "Then let's go." They moved swiftly to the shuttle. Lina followed Ethan, her steps cautious but confident. For the first time in many cycles, she was leaving the ruins, not in fear but with purpose. As they launched from the station, the enemy ships began to fire, beams of energy slicing through the atmosphere of the dead moon. Ethan maneuvered the shuttle skillfully, weaving through rocky outcroppings and evading attacks. Lina clutched the seat, but her eyes were wide with awe, not terror. She had survived alone for so long, but now she was experiencing something extraordinary: human ingenuity, courage, and the will to protect. Once clear of the moon's orbit, Ethan activated the shuttle's long-range sensors. He searched for a safe destination. "We need to reach the nearest human station," he explained. "They can hide us, provide protection, and figure out the next steps." Lina listened intently. "Human protect." "Yes," Ethan said firmly. "Humans don't always get it right, but when someone is in danger, we don't leave them behind. That's what makes us different." She thought about this, her large eyes reflecting the stars outside. In her entire life, no one had offered protection for its own sake. Humans were dangerous in reputation, yes, but in action, Ethan was showing her something new: mercy, courage, and loyalty. Hours passed in hyperspace. Lina finally relaxed, sitting back and watching the stars streak past. Ethan checked the ship's systems, but his mind remained alert. Whoever was pursuing her was likely not far behind. He had to prepare for more danger, but for now, she was safe. "You different," Lina said quietly, her voice almost a whisper. Ethan smiled. "Most humans are," he said, "but some of us try harder. Some of us choose to do what's right even when it's hard." For the first time, Lina believed that survival might not just be about hiding, fighting, or running. Perhaps it was also about trust. Perhaps it was about someone willing to stand beside her, even when the odds were against them. The stars streaked past the shuttle, the galaxy wide and unknown. But in that small vessel, humanity's courage and compassion shone brighter than any star. And Lina, who had survived against impossible odds, finally began to hope that she could have a future, not alone, but with someone who believed in her. The journey ahead would be dangerous. The enemies pursuing her were relentless, and the galaxy was not always kind. But for now, the first step had been taken. The alien girl had survived her first contact with humanity, and humanity had chosen to fight, protect, and believe. It was a small moment, but sometimes small moments were the beginning of great stories. The stars outside the shuttle stretched into long lines as they moved through hyperspace. Ethan Hale kept his hand steady on the controls, though his mind was racing. Lina sat beside him, still quiet, her large eyes fixed on the display panel that showed the approaching ships. They were getting closer. Whoever had been hunting her would not give up easily. Ethan knew he had only a few options. He could try to hide, but the pursuers were fast and experienced. He could try to run, but eventually they would catch up. Or he could face the situation directly and use the one thing humans had that others often underestimated: courage and strategy. Lina finally spoke. "They come fast, kill, take." Her voice was trembling. Ethan nodded. "They will try," he said calmly, "but we won't let them succeed, not if we can stop it." He activated the shuttle's long-range communication array. A holographic screen lit up, showing the nearest human command station. "Command, this is Shuttle 12E. We have a high-priority situation. One life endangered by hostile forces. Request immediate authorization for intervention." Static crackled. Then finally a voice came through. "Shuttle 12E, identify yourself and the target." Ethan hesitated for a moment, then spoke clearly. "This is Ethan Hale. The target is an alien survivor. Name is Lina. She is being pursued by a coalition force. I am requesting permission to protect her." Silence followed. Then slowly the command voice returned. "Understood. You have authorization. Proceed with caution. Human forces are en route to support you. Avoid direct engagement if possible." Ethan exhaled quietly. They were not alone. Humanity would intervene, and that gave him hope, not just for Lina but for what humans could represent to the galaxy: protection, courage, and moral strength. Lina tilted her head. "Human help?" she asked. "Yes," Ethan said firmly. "Humans protect. Some of us fight, yes, but first we try to save lives." Outside the shuttle, the approaching coalition ships came into view. They were sleek, dark, and menacing, moving with precise coordination. Ethan adjusted the shuttle's shields, preparing for the possibility of an attack. But he also had another plan. Humans were clever problem solvers, and sometimes brains were more important than weapons. "Lina, stay close," he instructed. "If things get dangerous, trust me. Move exactly how I tell you." She nodded, gripping her seat as the first glimmers of the enemy ship's weapons beams flashed past. The shuttle shuddered as shields absorbed the energy. Ethan maneuvered skillfully, weaving between asteroid fragments and using the terrain of space to hide as best he could. But the coalition ships were relentless. "They strong," Lina said, her voice full of awe and fear. "Yes," Ethan agreed, "but humans are clever, and sometimes cleverness beats strength." He activated a series of jamming signals from the shuttle. The beams of the coalition ships flickered, disrupted by the interference. Ethan smiled faintly. The enemy had expected to chase an unarmed target, but humans rarely played by the rules. "They do tricks," Lina whispered, her tone a mix of surprise and admiration. "They do," Ethan said, "and sometimes the rules are meant to be used against those who break them." The coalition ships fired again, but Ethan's shuttle dodged, sliding between space debris and narrowly avoiding collisions. Lina leaned closer, her eyes wide. "Human, brave." "I'm not just brave," Ethan said. "I'm determined, and humans never leave someone behind." As the pursuit continued, Ethan contacted the nearby human fleet. Several ships responded immediately, moving into strategic positions. They were a mix of combat vessels and defense drones, but their arrival was enough to force the coalition ships to slow down. The galaxy had always recorded humans as unpredictable and bold, but now Lina saw it firsthand. Humanity was willing to confront a dangerous coalition to protect someone they barely knew. The coalition commander's voice came through the enemy ship's communication channels, distorted but clear enough. "Surrender the alien immediately. Step aside or face destruction." Ethan frowned. "No," he said aloud, though the coalition could hear him. "We will not surrender her. You cannot take her." The ships hesitated, unsure. Humans were not just another species, they were unpredictable, strong, and sometimes surprisingly clever. The coalition had expected fear and submission. They had not expected resistance backed by strategy, courage, and moral conviction. Lina watched, amazed. Her entire life had been survival through hiding. Now she saw something different, a human willing to stand and fight, not for conquest, not for profit, but for what was right. It was an alien concept to her, but one that filled her with hope. Ethan maneuvered the shuttle toward a nearby asteroid field. Using the terrain, he created a defensive position where human ships could cover them. He activated additional communication signals, broadcasting a recording of the coalition's prior illegal experiments with Lina's species. "This is illegal," he declared. "You have no right to capture her. The galaxy will know what you are doing." The coalition ships paused, uncertain. News of their illegal activities would harm their reputation and strategic advantage. And humans had a unique power. They could not only fight, they could expose injustice. Lina's voice was soft, filled with wonder. "Human, show truth." "Yes," Ethan said. "We show the truth, not with anger but with courage and reason." The coalition ships attempted one final assault, but the human fleet had positioned themselves perfectly. Energy beams and defense shields created a barrier that the enemy could not penetrate. Slowly, the coalition ships retreated, their mission incomplete and their reputation at risk. Lina exhaled quietly, relief washing over her. She had survived countless dangers before, but this was different. Humans had chosen to protect her, not because they were forced to, but because they believed it was the right thing to do. Ethan guided the shuttle to a hidden human station in a nearby system. Lina watched as the station's docking bay opened, lights glowing warmly compared to the cold expanse of space outside. For the first time she felt safe, not just temporarily but for the future. "Here," Ethan said, "you'll be protected now. The coalition cannot reach you here without starting a war." She looked at him, her large eyes reflecting both gratitude and disbelief. "Human different," she said. "Yes," Ethan replied. "Different, but not just in power, in choice. Humans can be cruel, yes, but we can also choose courage, compassion, and protection. That's what matters now." Inside the station, Lina was escorted to a secure area. Scientists and diplomats began to study her, but under strict protocols designed to respect her autonomy. Ethan stayed nearby, ensuring she was treated with care. He explained human customs, their morality, and their tendency to protect those in danger. Lina listened, fascinated by this new perspective. Over the next hours, she began to ask questions, slowly learning about humanity's history, their strengths, and their imperfections. She realized that humans were not perfect, but they were capable of greatness. And sometimes, that greatness shone brightest when defending the weak and innocent. Ethan finally allowed himself a moment to rest. He knew the coalition would recover and likely try again, but the galaxy had seen something extraordinary. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but their courage and moral strength could change outcomes. Lina approached him, her voice soft. "I survive because human help." Ethan smiled. "No, you survive because you are strong, but humans help because we choose to. That choice, it makes all the difference." She nodded, understanding finally that survival was not just about physical strength. It was about trust, compassion, and the willingness of others to stand by you. That day, Lina realized that humans were not only capable of amazing technology and clever strategies, they were capable of moral courage. And in a galaxy where survival often meant betrayal and fear, that was a rare and powerful gift. As the sun rose over the distant stars, casting light on the station's metallic walls, Ethan and Lina looked out together. Danger had come close, but humanity had refused to step aside. They had chosen to protect, to expose injustice, and to show that courage could overcome fear. And for Lina, that choice changed everything. She had survived because of human ingenuity, yes, but more importantly, she had survived because of humanity itself. The galaxy was watching, and for the first time it would begin to see humans not as predators, not as conquerors, but as a species capable of greatness when it mattered most. The galaxy was quiet, but not for long. Word of Ethan Hale's shuttle, Lina, and the Coalition's failed mission had spread quickly through human communication networks and beyond. Diplomats, scientists, and strategists studied the events, amazed at the combination of human courage, moral clarity, and ingenuity that had stopped a dangerous coalition from capturing the last survivor of an alien species. On the human station where Lina now stayed, the alien girl slowly began to relax. She moved through the halls, marveling at the technology and careful planning around her. Unlike the abandoned ruins she had survived in for so long, this station was vibrant, alive with life and activity, yet peaceful. Humans bustled around her, speaking quickly, working together, but always with consideration. Ethan walked beside her as they moved through the corridors. "You'll be safe here," he assured her. "Nobody will hurt you now, and humans will make sure your story is heard." Lina's eyes widened as she took in the station. She had never imagined a place so large, organized, and yet compassionate. For the first time, she realized she could rest without fear. "Human, keep promise," she said softly. "Yes," Ethan replied. "Humans keep their word, that's what matters." Meanwhile, news of the confrontation with the Coalition had reached other alien civilizations. Many species had assumed humans were reckless, unpredictable, or dangerous. Yet here was evidence to the contrary. Humans had acted not for conquest or profit, but to protect someone weaker, someone who had no one else. This created ripples across interstellar politics. Some species expressed admiration, others curiosity, but all were forced to reconsider what humans truly represented. At the station's communication center, Ethan and the commanders discussed their next steps. "The Coalition will not take this lightly," one officer said. "They may try again, now or later. We need to protect Lina, but also use this opportunity to show the galaxy what humans are capable of." Ethan nodded. "We don't have to fight everyone," he said. "Sometimes strength is in restraint, but we also make sure justice is clear." Lina's survival is proof of that. Lina listened as humans spoke about strategy, ethics, and the larger galactic community. She realized how different humans were from what she had expected. Other species often valued power, influence, or fear. Humans valued courage, justice, and compassion. For the first time, she understood that humanity could be a force for good in the galaxy. Over the next few cycles, diplomats arrived at the station to meet Lina. They were cautious at first, unsure whether humans could be trusted. Ethan guided her, explaining carefully how to communicate, what to say, and how to present her story. She spoke slowly, recounting her life in the abandoned station, her narrow escapes, and her fear of the Coalition. The diplomats were stunned. Here was an entire species, last survivor, telling the story firsthand, and humans had ensured her safety. One diplomat said quietly, "Humans, they risked everything for someone they barely know." "Why?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Because it was right. Because sometimes the right choice is the strongest one." Lina's presence became a symbol. Her survival, aided by humans, inspired conversations across the galaxy. Alien leaders began to reconsider the human species. Humans had often been underestimated, their size, their technology, and their numbers seen as threats, but now their moral strength was evident. Protecting the weak, showing courage, and using clever strategy were qualities other civilizations could not ignore. Days passed, and the Coalition's leaders were forced to respond. They had underestimated humans, and the exposure of their illegal experiments created political tension. Some factions within the Coalition called for peace, while others demanded action. But humans were no longer the species to underestimate. Their reputation had changed. Inside the station, Ethan and Lorena prepared for her next step, integration into galactic society. She would need guidance, allies, and protection. Ethan explained the different civilizations, their customs, and how she could navigate them safely. She listened intently, absorbing every detail. For the first time, she could imagine a future filled with choice rather than fear. "You will not be alone again," Ethan said. "Humans will help, and some other species too. You have survived because of your strength, but your future will be secured by trust and collaboration." Lorena's eyes glistened. She had spent her life hiding, surviving only by luck and instinct. Now she was being offered not just safety, but guidance, friendship, and hope. She realized that humans had given her something far greater than protection. They had shown her the meaning of courage, loyalty, and moral strength. Weeks later, Lorena attended her first Galactic Council meeting, accompanied by Ethan and a team of human diplomats. She spoke about her experiences, the dangers her species faced, and the courage humans had shown. She spoke clearly, and for the first time the galaxy saw a human not as a potential conqueror, but as a protector and a moral force. Her story inspired others. Several alien species offered aid, ensuring she would have resources, allies, and a place in galactic society. And humans were recognized, not for weapons or conquest, but for bravery, cleverness, and the willingness to protect life. During the meeting, Lorena turned to Ethan and whispered, "First moment, when you came I thought fear would end me, but you saved life." Ethan smiled. "Not just mine, Lorena. Humans saved a choice, a chance. That is how we define ourselves. We don't give up when someone needs help. That is what matters." Lorena nodded slowly. Her survival had been difficult, lonely, and frightening. But now she understood something she never had before. Humanity's strength was not only in technology or numbers, it was in their choices, their courage, and their compassion. Months later, the coalition had retreated from the region, forced to reconsider their actions. The galaxy had witnessed a species willing to protect a lone alien against overwhelming odds, not for power, but for morality. And humans had earned a reputation that could never be ignored again. Lorena adjusted to her new life with care. She trained with scientists, diplomats, and other species, learning languages, customs, and survival skills. She became a bridge between humans and the rest of the galaxy, a living proof of what humanity could do. Wherever she went, stories of Ethan Hale's bravery and humanity's moral strength preceded her. Ethan watched from a distance, proud but humble. He had not sought recognition. He had simply chosen to do what was right. And in that choice, humans had shown the galaxy something rare. That courage, compassion, and intelligence could change outcomes in ways power alone could never achieve. On the day Lorena formally joined the Interstellar Council as a protected member, she turned to Ethan one last time. "You believe me?" she asked. "Yes," Ethan said. "I believe in you, and in humanity's ability to do what is right. That is why you survived. That is why humans are different." She smiled, a gentle and confident smile that showed not just relief but trust. The galaxy was a vast, dangerous place, but she would never face it alone again. Humanity had given her more than protection. They had given her hope, courage, and a future. As Ethan looked out at the stars, he reflected on what had happened. Humans were not perfect. They made mistakes. But they had the potential to rise above fear, to protect the weak, and to stand for justice, even when it was difficult or dangerous. That potential, he realized, was the greatest force in the galaxy. And for Lorena, for the galaxy, and for humanity itself, that day marked a turning point. A species once underestimated had shown the universe that true strength lies not just in power, but in courage, compassion, and choice. The galaxy had changed its perception of humans. The alien girl who had once been alone in the ruins of a dead station now stood at the center of a new understanding. And the story of Ethan Hale, a single human willing to risk everything for what was right, became a legend that would inspire generations across worlds. Humans had shown that when the weak needed protection, they would not step aside. They would fight, plan, and act with courage. And in that choice, the galaxy finally understood what it meant to be human. Lina looked up at Ethan one last time, her eyes filled with gratitude and understanding. The surprise she had felt the first day he entered her chamber had long since transformed. She now knew the truth. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they were also capable of greatness in ways no one could ignore. And for the first time in her long, lonely life, she truly felt that she belonged.